Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is my Forbes colleague, politics reporter Sara Dorn. Sara, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Brittany.
Big news, long-awaited news in the politics world, and that's Hunter Biden is pleading guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax charges, but is avoiding a felony gun charge. So to start us off, what do you know?
Yes, so news of this plea agreement broke yesterday. This is part of the U.S. Attorney in Delaware, David Weiss. He began this probe in 2018 into Hunter Biden's international business practices, and it grew to encompass his taxes and this gun purchase that he made in 2018. Now, the tax charges stem from unpaid taxes in 2017 and 2018. Hunter Biden's representatives have said that he has paid the approximately $1.2 million that he did owe back to the IRS. And the gun charge stems from a purchase that he made in 2018. The DOJ said that he owned the gun for about 2 weeks, but during that time, he was admittedly using crack cocaine, which he has, been forthcoming and speaking about in his recovery. So yes, he's going to avoid any charges for the gun charge as long as he completes a diversion program, which will reportedly require him to stay drug-free for 2 years, and prosecutors are likely to recommend probation for the tax charges.
So first question on everyone's mind, I think you just answered it, but I'm going to ask you point blank. Will he be facing jail time?
It's highly unlikely, according to many legal experts. I mean, we had a lot of former federal prosecutors talk about these specific 2 charges that he's facing yesterday. And not only is it rare for someone to be charged, prosecutors often don't even take these types of cases on unless they are attached to a more serious offense. Now, the gun charge, again, he's going to complete a diversion program, so this will be expunged from his record once he does that. But that carries a maximum sentence of 10 years in prison, and the tax offenses carry a maximum sentence of 1 year in prison each. And like I said, prosecutors are expected to recommend probation for the tax charges. And it's just highly unlikely that a judge would, overrule prosecutors' request and dole out jail time, given his status as a first-time offender, the fact that he is admitting guilt, and that he's paid the money back.
When you think even back to the 2020 election, Hunter Biden has really been a talking point for the right, and Democrats have really been hesitant to give commentary on the president's son. So let's break down the responses. How have Republicans responded? How have Democrats responded? And how has the White House and President Joe Biden himself responded to this news?
So Republicans, House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, James Comer, who is chair of the Oversight Committee and really leading the charge into the various investigations into the Biden family, which a lot of them center around Hunter Biden. They vowed to continue the probes and, equated this to, or not equated, but compared this rather to the DOJ's indictment of former President Donald Trump, and really sought to bolster his narrative and the narrative that the right is pushing regarding the probes into Trump, that this represents a 2-tiered system of justice. And numerous presidential candidates, of course, Trump himself and DeSantis also, adhered to that narrative. But there was a more tempered response, I would say, from some of the other candidates, including Pence, Christie, Haley, Hutchinson. They more pivoted into discussing the broader probes into the Biden family, rather than like blasting this and using these favored Republicans terms to describe this deal, which is, slap on the wrist and sweetheart deal. On the Senate side, and a lot of times we don't hear senators get into the fray as much as, members of the House. So this is a bit typical. But, McConnell, Senate Minority Whip John Thune, McConnell, declined to comment, as did Senator Lisa Murkowski. But John Thune also gave, a very measured response and sort of mentioned the broader Biden probes in responding to this. So there's a bit of a split in the GOP. Last night, Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene vowed to bring articles of impeachment against the president in response to this. And we've had a number of moderate Republicans today. I know Don Bacon being one, and French Hill, who is actually a McCarthy ally, who have said that they would not support those impeachment articles. And I think that that's more about the fact that this is, they want some stronger evidence to bring such a serious measure. But you can see how the party is kind of fractured a bit in its response to this.
So what about Democrats? What about Joe Biden himself?
The White House promptly put out a response once the news of this plea agreement broke yesterday, and said that, the president loves his son. It was more of a very fatherly rather than political response, and kind of said that they would have no further comment. And Biden later in the day, when asked about this at speaking at an unrelated event, said, "I love my son and I am proud of him." So I think that really underscores the tricky situation that Biden and Democrats are in like wanting to respect family issue, but having to respond to this because it has become so politicized. And a number of Democrats, commended not only the Justice Department, but Hunter Biden for admitting guilt in this case.
Hunter Biden's really troubled past, which he talked about in great length, paired with his business dealings, have really been in Republican crosshairs within the past few years. So is there any indication that this will be the end of investigations, or are they just ramping up?
This absolutely will not be the end of investigations. The House Ways and Means Committee already later this week is expected to view some of the records that the U.S. Attorney's Office in Delaware gathered in this probe. As I mentioned earlier, McCarthy and Comer are vowing to continue their various investigations into the Biden family. And more recently, there has this bribery investigation. This whistleblower has claimed that Hunter and the president were involved in a bribery scheme, and the FBI has had this whistleblower complaint for years. We don't know who the whistleblower is, but that is really, I would say, one of the loudest talking points for Republicans in the House who are probing the Biden family right now. And I also want to mention that Biden's lawyer, Chris Clark, yesterday said that he believes this is an end to the investigation, but David Weiss, in putting out a statement about the plea agreement, indicated that the investigation is ongoing. So it's unclear, what additional charges, if any, he might bring in the case.
Let's talk a little bit about David Weiss. What's really interesting in this case is that he actually is a Trump-appointed U.S. attorney. So what do we know about him?
Yes, he was appointed under former President Donald Trump. U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland has said that he is taking a hands-off approach to this investigation, given the political dynamics, given that, he was appointed by Biden and serves, at the power of the president. And Senator John Thune, as I mentioned earlier, gave a very, measured response yesterday in response to the plea agreement. And that included mentioning that David Weiss, is a Trump-appointed attorney. Now, on the other hand, again, sort of underscoring this division within the GOP, a number of House members yesterday, Jim Jordan, Republican from Ohio, conservative Republican from Ohio, and James Comer, again, the chair of the Oversight Committee, right-wing lawmaker from Kentucky, said that they discussed yesterday bringing Weiss in to answer questions about the investigation. And I don't know if you remember in the fall, there were some stories, concerns from prosecutors who were involved about the slow pace of the investigation. The Washington Post reported in October that prosecutors believed that they had gathered evidence to charge Hunter Biden. So there are some questions about why did this take so long.
This all comes as a 2024 presidential campaign is underway. As we know, President Biden just started his reelection campaign just a few months ago. He has said before that my son did nothing wrong. Obviously, Hunter Biden, his son, pleaded guilty to 2 charges. So will this affect 2024 at all?
Absolutely. I think that no candidate wants their child to plead guilty to any criminal charges or be involved in any criminal case at all. No parent. But at the same time, I think that this will, and the fact that Hunter Biden has really made some strides to clean up his public image, I think that on the Democratic side, they will spend this as a positive, that Hunter has this 5-year investigation, all of these, they dove into 15 years worth of his personal and, professional background. And all they found were 2 and this is, what I'm expecting the Democratic narrative to be. All they found were 2 misdemeanor tax violations that he has since cleared, and, a diversion program related to his drug history, which he has also, cleaned up. So I think that's where the Democratic narrative will go. But of course, on the Republican side, we're going to continue to hear about bribery, corruption, pay to play, as the House Oversight Committee continues to gather evidence and, release that information. It will no doubt come up in Republican attack ads against the president. And then, of course, this will be tied to the narrative that we have a corrupt Justice Department, a corrupt U.S. criminal justice system, which really plays into defending Trump and the various criminal matters that he's involved in. So I think that Republicans are really going to use this to, again, bolster that narrative that Trump was charged unfairly, that Republicans need to come in and reform this justice system that we have, not only at the federal level, but at the state level that has been, hijacked by left-leaning prosecutors.
So, Sara, you just described what really sounds like a can of worms into the 2024 campaign. So as this continues to develop, I hope you come back on and join us. Sara Dorn, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, Brittany.